Here we go. Hello and welcome back to Damage Reports. Look at that enthusiastic welcome to all of you. Damage Reports, where a couple of middle-aged, lifelong Star Trek fanatics watch Star Trek in the 21st century and give you our review of it. With me, as always, is Mike.
Hi, everybody. I don't know if James is going to keep this or not, but this episode started with him going, and that's kind of how I felt too. Boy, this was an episode of Star Trek Lower Decks.
Yeah, this week we're going to be reviewing Star Trek Lower Decks episode 7. This is our 10th episode. So, happy 10th episode, Mike.
Happy 10th episode. It's the most 10th episodes I've done in a while.
Yeah.
I don't know where that was going.
Most things I do never make it to the 10th episode. So, this is very exciting.
Hey, we're hitting it. We're going to at least hit 15. So I think our fans have that to look forward to.
All right.
I want to hop right into this.
Well, let's go ahead and do spoiler alert because we're about to give you the rundown and breakdown of the entire episode.
There was our spoiler alert. Star Trek Lower Decks, Season 1, Episode 7. Much Ado About Boimler. Why is it even called that?
Odd title. Because I thought
Mariner.
Yep. You could say.
We're going to go. Mariner tries to impress her best friend from Starfleet Academy, who is now a visiting captain. Meanwhile, Boimler is sent to a Starfleet medical ship after a transporter accident puts him out of phase. James, I didn't like this episode at all.
There are two things I liked in this episode, and everything else I really didn't like. I watched the episode, and I wasn't enjoying myself. And then I walked away, and I was eating a tuna fish sandwich, and this is how I eat. And I started really thinking about
that's how you eat a sandwich.
That's how I eat a tuna fish sandwich. And I started thinking about this episode, and the more I thought about this episode, the more angry I got at it. At either the characters or the writing or both, which is kind of like, one of those things.
Well, here's something I'll say that's really damning about this episode. This is the first episode that I haven't watched again before we've done an episode. I watched it and I was like, I don't need to watch it again.
Yeah.
It had a couple of moments that I thought were, okay, that's cool. But nothing grabbed me. And throughout the whole episode, I was like, what are we watching? Especially after what we considered to be a really great episode last week.
Yeah.
This just felt like a step down in all areas. And it had the same problems that I've had before, and the stuff that I liked is stuff that I will probably say that I've liked before. But this just felt like a really rough, unpolished episode. And I say that in terms of an unpolished episode of Lower Decks and an unpolished episode of Star Trek in general. So like you like to do every time, let's get into the good and the bad of it. James, what did you consider good?
Okay, we'll do the good stuff first. The dog concept, not as funny as Badgie, but we had another ensign make a creation, and it is problematic. And I thought the running gag of it and the button at the end with the dog, I thought was great. So that made me laugh. That was funny. And if the other thing that I really liked about this episode was there are references all the time, and there are forced references in this show. Like, oh my God, look at me. We're like a traveler or something like that, where it's like you're really trying hard to like win us over. And then there are natural references. Natural references are always going to be better and more rewarding. It's just, I think just for storytelling and everything, if things naturally lead to somewhere where we're referencing something from the past, from something we might all know, then you're awesome. And we had that in this. The ship that towards the end in the third act, they got to go save a ship, and there's something in it that's eating all the electricity. And boom, we see the jellyfish creature from Encounter at Farpoint, first episode, two-parter of Next Generation, and they don't really call a lot to it. It's not like, oh wow, that's the space jellyfish from Encounter at Farpoint, which
You
is
got to
what
call Picard.
it's what I was waiting for. I was waiting for them to ruin it, and they didn't. It was just like, wow, that thing ate all the electricity and flew away. I was like, yeah.
And I'll piggyback on that. I like that they didn't try to destroy it. They were
Nope.
just trying to escape from it and let it be. Like it wasn't like a bad thing.
Yeah.
And I guess I'll say, you said those were the two things. Am I cutting you off in terms of what else you
Nope,
liked?
that's it. I really liked
Okay.
I thought the dog made me laugh out loud when it turned into a box. So the dog walking around,
Yeah.
and then the button at the end of like the dog flying away. And she's like, "Oh, such a good dog." And Boimer's like, "Dogs don't fly." Really? They don't? She had no idea what a dog did. And the dog was like, "I know dogs don't fly. I just didn't want to hurt your feelings. You're great, love. You see you around," and flew away. And I was just like, that's funny.
The dog talking, the dog flying, and then Tandy at the end when a real dog licked her and she got upset. Like that's funny. That was a good joke thrown in here. But for all of the commercials leading up to this to have been about the dog and like she fixed quote unquote the dog, named the dog the dog.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things is when people call something article and like they give it like that title, and it goes back to me thinking how stupid the Dick Tracy trailer was. Because there's a moment where Charlie Korsmo and Dick Tracy yells, "Dick Tracy, look out!" Yeah. Like if he didn't say Tracy, look out, or Dick, look out, like it wouldn't have gotten the same thing. But the fact that he said the entire name has always bugged me. Yeah. So I like that it was like, "Hey, the dog." Yeah, that was funny to me. And that was about it. I liked the freaks in the ship. The episode deals with a Starfleet transport that is taking everybody who's had these crazy accidents that have happened on other Star Trek episodes to what they're calling the farm so that they can get treatment. And the captives, the patients on there believe that they are basically just going to be at space this whole time, and like they're going to be imprisoned because they are freaks. I liked the lieutenant in the Captain Pike chair with Delta radiation. Mm-hmm. I liked the what I assumed was the Warp 9 or the Warp 10 iguana that Paris and Janeway turned into. Like those to me are like, those are acceptable callbacks because it's like, hey, this stuff has happened before. Yeah. Since we've already said our likes about the episode, I'll say what I disliked about the episode. Mariner says this new captain coming on board is going to be a Jellicoe, and it's like no one would know that. You weren't on the Enterprise. I doubt Jellicoe coming and rankling feathers was a big thing in Starfleet history, and I just have to accept that that's the humor that this show is going to give. Mm-hmm. It's going to give comments that people that have watched Next Generation are going to like laugh at or recognize. But I refuse to believe someone in there would be like, "Oh, you're like this character who was on 2 episodes, and that was it." That really stuck with me and bugged me.
I was upset by it because they established saying like, "Oh, we're going to get a babysitter captain," and I like that term because I really thought about it, and I was like, on the Enterprise, the Next Generation Enterprise, if Picard left for a day or two, it's not like Geordi, Data, and Riker and Worf would slack off and nap and like they don't need it is a babysitter. They don't need a babysitter because they would just do their fucking jobs because that's what they do, and they would be happy about doing it. Now, with this crew, you motherfuckers need a babysitter. We've seen that time and time again. So I thought it was funny that they called it babysitter. Then they added that bit, and I was like, well, that sucks. Because it's like, I thought you had a good terminology for it that is beyond just Star Trek,
and that's what's weird, because when you look at it, it feels like it's trying to be that 2-parter, Chain of Command from Next Generation Season 6, where Picard is reassigned because he has this history with this kind of weapon that they believe the Cardassians are making, and they're saying, you, Crusher, and Worf are going to Cardassia, or whatever planet it was in the Cardassian system, and you're going to deal with this weapon. And this guy that has a history with the Cardassians is going to take over the Enterprise so that it'll be no nonsense with them. He knows how to deal with them. Plus, you're dealing with this secret weapon.
Yeah.
And it felt like it was a riff on that, down to like the black uniforms, the black infiltration uniforms that the captain and the first officer and the security guard or the security chief were wearing. But that's what didn't make sense to me. If you're not going to have the whole episode be about a riff on Chain of Command, why are you setting it up this way? It didn't pay off in any way. They didn't come back to the ship at the end, and it didn't focus on what a captain's place or the absence of a captain will do to a ship, other than because it's going a long way around by saying like, oh, Mariner, you're going to be my first officer because we have a history. And it's like you're going through all these hoops, and it just doesn't work at all.
And that was the thing I started thinking about. How old is Mariner? Because, like, if she was in Starfleet with somebody who is now a backup captain, can she not be in her 20s? Like, and if
she
so,
has to be. They made a mention about how because Mariner says you're a captain already, and she's like, yeah,
okay.
I kind of just was a natural and aced through things. So it's like, okay, I guess that makes some sense. But that was the other thing I disliked, and hopefully, like, this isn't trampling on your dislike of it. You get this character motivation from Mariner where she finally flat out states, I don't want to get promoted. I want to be an ensign where I could do all the cool stuff and not have to worry about duty or anything else once I get promoted. And it feels like it's trying to be a reflection of Captain Kirk being, I don't want to be Admiral Kirk. Okay. I like being a captain and being out here.
Yeah.
But who cares? Like, you should not be in Starfleet. Like, if that's your attitude, like, you are a problem character.
Yeah, but I think the Captain Kirk thing was more about being out in the field versus being behind a desk. I mean, they even say that, in 2, they hit you in the head with it. Wrath of Khan is like, I know why we're treating this like a funeral. You're upset that you're behind a desk and not out there mapping stars, and it's like, yeah, there's different people have different pools in life of what you want to be. But okay, let's get into plot A, because plot A is not only problematic,
but I think that's the issue. Like, in that, the fact that she's like, I want to be an ensign because it's cool to be an ensign. It's not. And every episode or every series has shown it's not cool. I mean, you want to be a lieutenant at least. Maybe I'm mincing words and I'm getting like too nerdy on this.
Okay.
But I don't feel like anybody would be like, I want to be an ensign. It's cool to be an ensign, because she's still cleaning up shit. Mm-hmm. And it just feels like a really weird thing to have like said, no, my thing is I don't want to be promoted because I want to be the coolest ensign, not just some captain.
Yeah.
That bugged me.
So plot A is the captain and some of the crew are going away. They're going to go to these caves with these plants, and they're going to be asked to plant the plants or not plant the plants. And they're taking it very seriously. And so they have a babysitter captain come in, and it's somebody that Mariner went to through the academy with, and now she's a captain. And that really like stopped me for a second, because it was like, okay, is Mariner in her 30s or 40s? And if so, is she now the saddest character ever in history?
Yeah.
Of like, yeah, I'm still cool and hip. It's there was a character in Community that was like the cool guy making fun of like the National Lampooning 40-year-olds in college movies of like, I'm here to get drunk and get laid. And it's like, and if you're 40 in college and doing that, you're the saddest you're not funny. You're the saddest human in the world. And so then I spent a good amount of time thinking, how old are these characters supposed to be? Because I always assumed she was early mid-20s. Is like, that's kind of always been my thought.
I think that could be it, and that's what I'm worried about. Like, the Star Trek universe kind of broke when in the first Bad Robot movie, Kirk goes from being a cadet to being a captain literally like within like a week of not graduating from the academy. And it's like, okay, that's weird.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why that was the choice they made. Like, it could have been a very easy thing to avoid, but rank doesn't make sense now, at least in those movies. I'm not saying that they think that that's a way around this, but when you say someone is a captain that is already entrusted enough to take over a ship when that captain goes on to a special assignment, you're not giving that to a kid that's like relatively fresh out of the academy. So I'd say she's mid-20s, if that, because they also said that she's already been a lieutenant and was demoted and is now on the Cerritos because of strings that her dad pulled. So I think she's not like the youngest person.
Okay.
I don't think she's in her 30s, but it does add a weird layer to things that I don't think they're going to touch again. So that's what sucks.
Yeah.
I don't think it matters. We're concerned about how this works in reality or with the character. They're never going to mention that again.
I did have a moment of thinking about it, because then I realized I liked the character of Mariner a couple of times, but I really did not like what they did with her this week. And it hit me this week why I don't like, because they keep making her Poochie from Itchy and Scratchy. Like she is like, Poochie, you're so extreme. Like and it's like, that's right, I am. See you around, suckers. And I felt like Milhouse crying, going, when are they going to the fireworks factory? Like caring about something that they're not even talking about, because that was the promise made to me. The big crime of this one for me is, so she's now with this friend again who asked her to be my right hand while I'm here on the ship. And you're gonna do something. And then they do about 3 or 4 different missions together, and Mariner fucks up every mission. And I thought,
not on purpose. That's what's weird. Not on purpose.
Yeah, except at the end, she says, were you doing that on purpose? Yeah, because your life's just stuck into it. And it's like, so you put everybody in harm's way just to not get promoted? So you're either incompetent or the shittiest human ever. Like that, the fucking fish people don't deserve to have their machine blow up because you don't want to be promoted and you forgot to bring the tricorders on the away mission. You know, so I was just kind of like, wow, you're just a shitty character. You're just whoever wrote this episode, you've just made her kind of unlikable for a long. I don't know how you redeem that character of, I don't want to be promoted, so I am going to risk other people's lives.
Yeah.
And it's like, my God. And it's not funny. So it's like, you didn't do it for humor. You did it for character development, but now we're just creating the worst character.
Would you have forgiven it if it was funny? Like if it was actually like funny situations that happen, would you have forgiven it? Like say it was like a homering thing where she forgot the tricorders, so they had to do something on the fly, and it fixed everything even better than it was before. But I mean, like it wasn't that it endangered the fish people. It was like she's trying to be stupid, but she can't. Like Homer trying to be smart, but he can't. Like, do you think that would have changed it at all for you?
Well, I mean, it depends on the episode and how the story. Like, I always love when I look to The Simpsons and Homer being an idiot, but still always coming out on top. And then we get the Frank Grimes episode, which I think is in like season 7 or 8, where we have.
Can you believe how old that fucking episode is?
Yeah, I know.
Like there are probably 25-year-olds.
Yeah,
I've no idea that episode.
There's even an episode in like after season 20 where Frank Grimes' son comes to kill Homer.
Yeah,
you know, which is, at this point you're attacking the elderly. But in that episode, we have somebody complaining about real complaints about Homer. He's a slob. He's an idiot. He's in charge of safety. He does this, that. And the episode literally ends with the guy being so frustrated that he accidentally kills himself. And then at his funeral, the
best line ever.
Well, even before that, the preacher is like grimy, known to his friends. No one called him that but Homer, so it is very much like
he hated it.
Yeah, it's like a fuck you to anybody looking at logic with Homer. And literally, Homer is asleep at the funeral and says, "Marge, change the channel," and everybody laughs as Frank Grimes goes into the ground. He's lowered into his grave, and Lenny goes, "That's our Homer."
That's like our Homer is the best. I said last week or the week before, my favorite is, let's say Mo, but like that and "That's our Homer" are two of my favorite like buttons. But I'm wondering where you're gonna go. How do you feel about that episode? I love that episode.
Same,
but. Okay. Some people think
Homer's an idiot.
That episode.
Homer's a problem. He is a problem.
Yeah.
Like, and they created a character to point out that Homer's a problem. Then they kill him at the end of the episode. Homer makes a lame joke about it, and we move on. And I think, like, so could you have done that with Lower Decks? Could you have had everything be silly and stupid and be like, hey, that's how Mariner rolls or something like that, and it work? Yeah, you could have written that, I guess, but that's not what this is. So you can make something that's just funny that kind of undercuts the world.
But this didn't at any point. Like, that's what's so disappointing. Like, after last week, what we considered to be a really fun episode,
A great episode.
they just dropped the ball on this one. And
Yeah.
it's sad. I'm not trying to kick the show. I expected more.
Yeah.
And it's one of those, what I forget what I'm trying to reference, but it was like the one where it's like, I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed.
Yeah.
And it's like I am totally, every episode I feel like I'm pulling a Darmok where I'm trying to describe it with like some other pop culture reference. But it's like that Mr. Show opening where Jill Talley is there and she tells David Cross something about, I support or I reject you for this. No, I reject you for using your baldness as a ploy. And he's like, no, I'm really bald. And she goes, then I reject God. Like, to take it to that level, it's like, I'm not mad. I'm just sad that this episode wasn't that good.
Yeah, and for me, so if she actually messed up everything on accident and felt foolish, then this could have been an opportunity for great character growth of being like, man, I got to get my stuff together. This is somebody I went to school with, and now she's a babysitter captain, but she has people around her that respect her, that work with her, and she gets stuff done. And I'm not getting stuff done because I put a scorpion in somebody's bed. It's like one of the jokes she's telling. And I like that the crew that was with her is like, you sound horrible. Like, like they tell her she sounds horrible. And even like, we don't think, obviously she
even the captain is like, well, we were young. So like,
yeah.
The captain is even like, I might laugh at that with you, but let's not talk about that here.
Yeah. And yeah, so man, it could have been an opportunity for something great. Then we go to the other ship, and yeah,
but
so
that's what my problem is. The other ship felt like the whatever they decided to call it, but the proto matter ship that we saw in episode 2 or 3, where Mariner and the captain had to like get on better terms and save the ship. That's what that whole thing felt like. She's like, you know what? People are in danger. I'm going to get us out of here, and I'm going to find a way to get us all out of here. And we've already seen that less than 3 or 4 episodes before. Like,
and this one for me did not have that you saved the day moment. For me, it was like, you're just a shithead character. Because one, we've kept a tradition of all the captains in Starfleet are shitheads. Because the captain on the other ship is like, I don't want to die in space. And then Mariner punches her out in front of everybody. No one reacts. Everybody's like, cool. Thank you for abusing that captain. And then the babysitter captain goes, oh, where's this Mariner been hiding out? This badass that's punching captains again. And I went, punching captains again? Like, so she has a history of just beating the shit out of captains. And then even like our regular captain, her mother that's going to plant the plants, this babysitter goes, well, so they'll plant the plants or not. Sounds like a very important mission. So I was like, so just every captain in Starfleet now is just a shithead, just a shitty, petty, like, so why am I watching you? Why do I care? Like, come on, Romulans, get this shit together. Like, take these assholes out. This is the time. Where's Nero when I need him? Like, blow these.
I'm bummed out about. Like, if the idea is that all Starfleet captains are like this, and again, we need to, and I've said this on every episode, we need to accept that this is a cartoon, a half-hour comedy cartoon. So maybe we can forgive it. But like you're saying, every Starfleet captain they're introducing are pieces of crap. And if you were to have like some surprise like appearance by like the Enterprise, and are you going to write Picard like that? Because I don't want to see Picard
Yeah.
like that or make snide jokes like that. It would be funny, but it's not. It doesn't fit consistently with the universe, and that's just what bugs me about it. It's so like I recognize what I'm saying in that this cartoon is not part of the universe, but it's like it's what I'm saying. You can you understand me. I'm
But
just
no,
afraid of like
but
anybody out there watching this and
yeah.
being like, the fuck is this guy's problem? It's a cartoon.
Yeah, but there's a cartoon. You still got to uphold to the logic of your thing. If I was to do a cartoon about scientists and they're like, there's a new virus out. Let's all pray to see if we get an answer. Like other scientists might be like, we actually do a lot of testing and field work. We don't sit around praying for an answer to the virus. And it's like, oh, well, it's a cartoon. So don't worry. Those are just my scientists. Like if you're going to write for Star Trek and you don't understand that world, you suck. So you shouldn't be writing. You should not be writing. And last week's episode really felt like if that was a one-off writer or if that came from your writing team or whatever, that felt like a group that knew Star Trek. And this week you didn't again. And not just that, like your lead character, the way you wrote your lead character in this, we're getting to a point of I don't know how to redeem this character. So this character will be a shithead until somebody shoots her in the head. Like she'll die a shithead. Like she's just a shitty character. Like you cannot sit there and you're hurting everybody else for your own gain. And it's like you're not. I didn't realize we were watching the villains. I've said this before, but it feels like we are.
But then that's the problem that I have too, where the structure of the show doesn't lend itself to episodes like this. We're deliberately following the unseen ensigns that are not part of the bridge crew. But how easier the episode would have worked if Mariner and Boimler were the helmsmen and the tactical officers and they belonged on the bridge. Like they would literally be being babysitted because the captain, first officer, and security guard are no longer there. Yeah. They literally would have babysitters, but that's not their jobs. We have the 5 o'clock shadow helmsman and the lady that's at tactical, but they don't do anything and they don't have any character names. So I think that's kind of the flaw structurally for me, where you could have them be on the bridge instead of like having to manufacture reasons for them to be there. I know Mariner from the academy. Come on, you're going to be my first officer. Boimler has to be on the bridge for some reason, moving isolinear chips. If his job was on the bridge, it could work. Like there's ways around that, and I think the easiest way would be, you see behind the bridge, you have all the engineering, medical, and security or whatever it is stations. They could be assigned to those because the Enterprise always had people that were just at those stations and you never knew who they were, but they were there. Yeah. Just have that be their post so it makes sense that they're on the bridge instead of contriving something every week.
Yeah.
The Boimler plot I found funny because transporter accidents are all throughout Star Trek. And this was kind of funny because it was a transporter accident where he didn't fully materialize, but he was solid and was just making the transportery noise. And that's funny to me, like how loud it was and how bothersome it was. But that was it. There was nothing else. Boimler doesn't learn anything in the episode. There's nothing to learn. It was just, it felt like a way to get him off of the ship.
And he doesn't help in any way to anything. He doesn't, and he's the name of the episode. So it's like, oh, you're just naming episodes. It doesn't matter what they're about. Much ado about Boimler, but there isn't much to do about him. You know,
and I don't even get if that's the joke, but it's weird. It's like not even funny.
Yeah. I liked Rutherford's. It's just cosmetic. Like that made me laugh because with Rutherford, he's talked about his robot brain is new, you know, he's got robot parts and he's like, I'm still getting used to it. So him seeing somebody who's not teleported completely, he's like, it's just cosmetic, you know. It's like you just look differently for life.
You're see-through and you're making a loud hum.
Yeah, but you're still the same human and you still got your mind, so it doesn't matter. But it felt weird that she would contact Rutherford to beam them off and not the ship, you know. And that felt forced and stuff like that, where it was just like, no, you would, Cerritos, beam us up. Cerritos, beam up. You know, you would be doing that.
And I guess that you could say that that was cut for time. Like she could have been like, Cerritos, beam us up, and they were like, we can't, we won't get you in time. And then she goes, oh, then hey, Rutherford, use your thing. So I
Mhm.
mean, I could accept that that was just a cut for time thing,
Mhm.
and just expedited the plot. But it
But even
it didn't
even
fit together.
the joke of him working on something, he was making something like under 2 seconds faster. So for
Mhm.
them to say no, we can't do it, it's too long, and for him to fix it's much longer than 2 seconds. So it's like his
Yeah,
system wouldn't. Yeah, I was really
like I
happy when
said,
when I saw the jellyfish come out of the ship. I was like, oh hey, there's a. And I was like, well, get ready for them to go, well, isn't this an encounter at some far point in motherfucker? Like I was
yeah.
waiting for it, and it didn't happen. So yay.
So
There's
they're learning. But to me, it was counteracted by them being like, "You're like Jellico."
yeah.
That's gonna go down as like one of the worst lines for me because it's like no one would reference that. Like
Yeah.
that is an out of the universe reference, and it was like, come on, you're better than this, guys.
And just as far as character developing, last week we saw them working together and overcoming problems together. And this week we got to see Mariner meet an old friend who has succeeded. And there was definitely an opportunity for one of two things to happen. She was going to grow and realize, man, I've been doing this wrong. I gotta try if I'm going to be in Starfleet, or Starfleet isn't for me because I don't want what this world is, and some of my friends do. Either way, those are both the right choice. And what they decided to go with is, no, I'm still going to be shitty, horrible, and selfish, and I'm going to stay in Starfleet. And it's just like, my God, like no one
Are
should
there
keep.
any consequences, or are you Homer and
Yeah.
you don't fit in this universe?
See, like, but Homer is in Springfield. Like, it's I could see like there could be argument made that he shouldn't be at a power plant, but the power plant itself is a shithole, as shown many times over. Starfleet is supposed to be like the pinnacle of everything, and yeah, I mean it isn't anymore, but it was supposed to
Yeah.
be past all the hardships of humanity, poverty,
So just
war.
to say one more good thing about the episode, or one more nice thing at least, I like that the alien that was commanding the farm ship, this, did they say section 21 or 22,
14, I think it's section 14.
whatever it was that like deals with Starfleet's medical accidents, that it was one of the aliens from the original animated series with that weird arm in the
Mm-hmm.
middle of their chest. So it's like, okay, you're pulling that out along with these other accidents,
Mm-hmm.
but I recognize the irony of me being like, you reference an episode of Chain of Command like that, that's bad. But hey, at least you used an old alien.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
But
I don't
it's
know.
seeing all the accidents in Starfleet when we first got to that room, we saw everybody. I thought, oh, that's cool. But then it got so plot devicey and dumb that I just, yeah, it was like, we're gonna mutiny, okay. And then he reports them, which I thought was a funny cut too, where
Yeah.
he's like, yeah, let's mutiny. Then he's talking to the captain, and we were all cheering it together about mutiny. You need to know about this. And so that was a funny cut. But then uh, rather than being like, hey, we're a day's ride away from this place, really at that point it's hours till we get there, so knock it off. None of that said because of plot device. And then they throw the mutineers throw him in an airlock to shoot him out to murder him.
That was so weird. Like, it
And
was, they were going to murder
yeah, they were
him.
going to murder him, and then they're on the planet already, so he survives. And
Which ends up being, if you haven't watched the episode, I hope you're not just watching this, but it is a nice resort planet that like people can rehabilitate. And it was like, it was what people say when they're like, your dead pet has gone to the farm. Like, it was literally a nice resort and a play on that. So I mean, that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
But it disappointed me that there wasn't anything where the freaks overcame the problem because of their malformations.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine like that was the plot where it was like, we are all damaged,
mm-hmm.
but we're using our weird afflictions to take over this ship. How fun that would have been.
Yeah. It's there's many different things they could have done with that, but they didn't do anything with it. And then they even say, sorry about the trying to mutiny at the end. Not sorry, Boromir, that we were going to murder you, that we put you in an airlock.
But sorry,
yeah, that we were going to kill you, but sorry that we were going to do a mutiny. And then they were like, oh, well, maybe I should be more honest about how long the trip takes and this, that. And I was like, all right, whatever. Your whole thing is pointless. This is a B plot that served nothing, that added nothing to our characters, added nothing to the show, and wasn't funny. A couple of funny moments.
Made me annoyed for watching it. Made me felt like I wasted my time.
Yeah. So
I got homework to deal with these days.
Yeah. Yeah. So
that's where we stand on this one.
Yeah, man. It's
you could tell that this episode was bad. We are going through it like in a half hour. It's like we have nothing to say.
And that's okay. I like that. I like that if there is something we like, if there's an episode we like, we're gonna talk to you about it. We're gonna say this. But if there's something that's this bad, yeah, we shouldn't. I don't want to spend an hour talking about why something sucks. Let's spend 20 minutes, I guess, talking about how bad it sucks.
So I guess on that note, I will say that I give this episode 2 Darmoks out of 5 Jalads. I think it's the lowest rating I've given an episode. This episode, to me, and I researched this one, this episode to me is Worf and Alexander trapped in a Western populated by Data.
Yeah, fistful of Datas.
Not in a good way, but the reason I'm saying that is because this episode was such a letdown from last week's that this is like Fistful of Datas that breaks this streak of episodes in the 6th season of Next Generation. Realm of Fear, the episode where Barclay was afraid of the transporter and find those creatures in there. Man of the People, you could say that was a bad one. So let's skip Man of the People. Okay. That one where Troy gets taken over by the dude's kid and whatever, it gets old. But then you have Relics, the Scotty episode. Wonderful. You have Schisms, the episode where everyone on the crew is getting abducted and experimented on while they sleep. You get True Q, the episode where the human girl is actually a Q because her adopted parents became human. And Rascals, where they all became kids, where a few of them became kids. Follow up that 4 or 5 episode run with Fistful of Datas. It's like, all right, you're technically Star Trek, but go to hell.
Fistful of Datas to me, again, there's always, again, Star Trek Next Generation, for I think both of us have said, is our favorite Star Trek of all of them. And there are many good Star Trek shows. So it's like we're saying it's the best of the best. There are other ones, Deep Space Nine, the original series, even some of Voyager that are really great. So for us to hold it up, especially seasons 3, 4, 5, and 6 are just, there's endless amounts of great episodes. But Fistful of Data, even Next Generation had bad episodes. Even the best of the best had bad episodes.
And Fistful of Datas, I'll say, is like that thing that I've mentioned to you before, where there are people I'm sure that love it. And I remember being at Comic-Con in 94 and 95, and one of the booths was showing a blooper reel from Hercules, the Kevin Sorbo Hercules, and me not liking the show and being like, why are they showing this? And seeing a couple of ladies laughing really hard at it, I was like, that's why, because it's not for me. Yeah. And so it's like, I hope someone out there loves Fistful of Datas. It's not for me though.
Yeah. For me, this one, it's going to be a 1 Darmok out of 5 Jillards. I gave that to one other episode, and it was another episode that bothered me as much as this did. And my analogy is it's the Starfleet uniforms from season 1, where there's going to be long-term damages from this episode
because of how tight they are.
So for those who don't know, the Starfleet uniforms were so tight that
they were one piece jumpsuits,
which again, we're talking about the future. It was the 80s. It made sense on paper, but many of the actors complained about back pain by the 2nd season. They're like, I'm in this for 12 hours a day, 5 days a week, and I'm starting to have a hunch. So and so the crew went to the doctor and they found out, and That was Paramount's call. Paramount was like, you're switching the costumes. Why? Because we're not going to get sued by the cast because they have like long-term back damage from what you're making them wear. So this
And it's
episode,
awkward watching, like, seeing those old uniforms. And the one, like, season 2 also didn't have the collars, I don't think.
Mhm.
Like, I think they were two-piece, but they still didn't have the collars. So it's one of those things where when you watch Next Generation, you see just a flash of it and you don't see a collar. It's like, this is either a bad episode, this is potentially a bad episode, or a flashback from All Good Things. But you know it's not going to be a good episode if you see Picard with no collar and like, ugh, or Riker without the beard.
I mean, what's her name who played the first officer who died? Tasha Yar. Tasha Yar and Data could wear them. Like they both nobody looked good in those outfits. And Brett Spiner, Data, Tasha Yar looked good in those ugly outfits. So it's like, man, you guys could wear anything. So
it took me until recently to realize that Worf had that sash, because otherwise he would look so weird, because it was just the Klingon head and the nondescript thing, that they had to have that sash to make him look complete. And it never hit me like how important costuming is, the way that when I recognized that. It was so weird. So that was Star Trek Lower Decks. That was Damage Reports. Whatever.
Oh man.
But like I said, I wanted to end on a good note and not just this was a bummer episode. So I'll fill you in more on the TurboGrafx next time, everybody.
Thanks.
Because I know that's what you're tuning in for. But as always, I'm Michael.
I'm James. Thank you for watching Damage Reports.
Bye-bye.